Hi, I'm Neal Romanek. I'm editor of Feed, and you're about to see a discussion that took place last week, hosted by Feed in collaboration with the Soho Media Club, great networking organization in London. And we talk about the coronavirus and its effect on the industry, specifically the effect on freelancers. The days where there was a big movie studio or a big TV network that employed thousands and thousands of technicians, those days are over. It's all freelancing all the time now. And those freelancers are always in a very precarious position, and particularly with the coronavirus upon us and productions being canceled left and right, a lot of these people are wondering where the groceries are going to come from, and it's a very difficult time out there. So Soho Media Club and Feed got together some experts from the world of labor, law, industry organizations, and we had a discussion about what freelancers can do, how they can face this crisis, what resources are available to them, and we hope it's useful for you as well. Please join us at Feed. Come to feedmagazine.tv. Also, you can sign up for our newsletter at getfeedmag.co.uk and follow us on social media.
So welcome everyone. We obviously are in the middle of some tough times at the moment, and we've got a long wave to ride together. But at times like this, I think this is what Soho Media Club is all about: coming together, supporting each other and collaborating. So hopefully this session will be useful for everybody, and our message really for today is stay positive, stay present, and let's keep communicating with each other and building the community. In lieu of physical meetups, we thought we'd have this chat today to really kind of spread the positivity and give people advice in terms of what's out there, what they can do in the short term, and how to keep your head up. And I know everyone's, self-isolating, but that shouldn't mean that you feel isolated. So that's what we're here for. So I'm going to pass it over to Muki, who's going to host today's discussion. Muki Kulhan is the CEO of Muki International. And over to you, Muki.
Jaisica, please wait. I just want to add one thing.
And that's of course, Tom.
It's a false start of my side. So first thing, if somebody is not a member, please sign in as a member, then you will receive the recording of this panel. Second thing, we're working on the small tech. We'll send for you the invites so you can record yourself for 40 seconds and ask the questions after panel, or even some statements, and then we can use this for the social media or answer your questions as well. But that one is we're working on this today, so it's pretty new, and we want to really try. So definitely, if you are a non-member of Soho Media Club, please do so to receive more information. Over to you, Muki.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at Soho Media Club, our first ever live webinar and podcast. There's one of our speakers has left already, but that's what normally happens if you come to our shows live in Soho. Sorry. Just want to thank Tom and Jaisica again for keeping things running with Soho Media Club, and Pippin, James, and Russ, the whole team at Soho Media Club. We are all in this together, and I think the last couple of weeks we've realized that as an industry we've naturally gravitated toward helping one another and keep on keeping on and keep on going. So I'm so pleased that we've pulled a great panel together to chat to you today about just that, like what can we do in this short-term solution in the midst of COVID-19, keeping our businesses running, keeping ourselves working as independents and full-time employees at different companies. What can we do to help each other? Is that is that training? Is that extra pair of hands, extra freelance work to keeping our spirits up and kind of keeping things positive, mentally, physically, emotionally, and realizing that the gray skies will move away and we will all get out of this, and it's just readjusting to an industry that's really never going to be the same again. So how are we best to move forward? So without further ado, I would love to introduce our panel today, and I will. So not in any seated order. In my mind, I have a stage, and we're on stage, and everybody's sitting next to me. I'm going to run through the line, and I'll have each of you guys introduce yourself and what you do and what you're going to bring to the discussion today. So first, we've got Sara Putt from the TV and film charity, and then we've got Nia Hughes from BECTU and Tony Lennon from BECTU, Tom Guida from Clintons law firm, and a producer in his own right as well. And then Neal Romanek, the editor of Feed magazine. So we're going to start with you, Sara Putt, to just introduce yourself and what you do and what you're going to bring today. And then we're just going to go down the line and then kick off with this discussion. So over to you, Sara.
Okay, just unmuting. Hi, everybody. It's really lovely to be here. I am a trustee of the film and TV charity. I sit on the board there, and my daytime job is being an agent for behind the camera freelance talent in high-end scripted TV and film. So I've kind of seen this from the coal face over the last couple of weeks, where over 90% of our clients have lost their jobs, lost their income. We too have lost our income. So it's certainly a really challenging time. However, wearing my film and TV charity hat, I come bearing hopefully some good news, which, as many of you may have read, there is a COVID-19 relief fund that is being set up with money from Netflix, with money from the BFI, with money from the film and TV charity that the film and TV charity will administer, and that we're going to bring other partners and more money into in due course. So I'd love to share some details around that in due course.
Fantastic. And we look forward to hearing more about that good news. Congratulations on that. And we're going to hear more about that in just a second. So Nia, over to you, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nia Hughes, and I'm an organising official with BECTU, the trade union. I work in a division called the London Production Division, and we look after upwards of 12,000 freelance members. So I'm going to be bringing the BECTU perspective and to give some insight into what our members have faced over the past 2 weeks and where do we move on to from here.
And then passing the baton to Tony, your colleague. Hi, Tony. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much indeed for having us. I've got a few other colleagues from the BECTU who are online. I'm the freelance and research officer for BECTU. I've spent many years getting to grips with and understanding the atypical and quite strange working relationships that underpin the sector. I've got a few thoughtful things to say about what we need to think about for the future, and the grey skies will depart at some point. But look, the really immediate question, and my colleagues will back me on this, is that we are inundated with desperate freelancers who need to know where the next meal's coming from. They need to know if they can pay the next rent check. They need to know if they can look after their families. And we have got, all of us, to use whatever links we have to try and get an 80% right compensation deal, which employees are now open to. We've got to get that for freelancers.
Fantastic. And over to you, Tom. Nothing can happen without consulting our lawyer. So hello, Tom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Guida. So I'm a partner in the TV and film group at Clintons, one of the boutique firms here in town. I'm also producer of independent features. Luckily, wrapped filming on our latest feature on the 10th of March in New York. So just, dodged a big bullet there. So I will be talking a bit about some of the strange Latin or French words that are being thrown around, like force majeure, as well as ways that you can protect yourself in some of the ad hoc work that's being done going forward.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tom. And hello, Neal. Oh, we'd also like to add a big thank you to Neal and Feed Magazine for being our host. As you know, Soho Media Club, we're able to kind of invade a Soho venue every month. So thank you, Neal, for hosting us today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Neal Romanek. I'm editor of Feed Magazine, and we are a online and print destination that covers online and streaming media. and technology around that, as well as new innovations in video and video storytelling. And also my background is as a screenwriter and a freelancer. And I also do some work helping people in creative recovery and kind of helping them find new ways of working as well. So hopefully that will be useful today, and also I can bring some industry perspective, and I think some maybe a longer term view about what we might be looking at.
Fantastic. And we also know that what's happening today is being recorded, and you're also going to help distribute our chat today too.
That's right. So this will appear in the next issue of Feed Magazine as an article. We're also going to be using this chat, recording this chat, which we're doing now, and that will go online as a podcast and as video content for you guys to return to or to send off to your friends. Also, I invite you to subscribe to the digital edition of Feed Magazine, which you can do at getfeedmag.co.uk. So you can go there and get newsletters and stuff, but it'll also give you access to the digital magazine online.
Fantastic. Get that plug in early. That's very good. So we do
Get out of the way.
Sign up to Feed. So I'm going to loop back around to you, Beck. We are so excited that this news has come at such a great time, just before our Soho Media Club webinar, a web chat today, podcast today. We'd love to hear like a little bit more about what this fund means. Where will this money go? How will it be used? And how can everyone out there apply? So if you don't mind revealing all to us. And exclusive breaking, any breaking juicy bits too. So Beck, if you can hear me, the powers of, oh, I'm sorry, over to Sara. Sorry.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Who is this?
Life. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
Sorry,
Yeah,
Sara.
that's fine. Don't worry. So this is very early doors on the COVID-19 Relief Fund, but as you probably read, fund, £1 million of that is now coming our way. And the BFI have put in £500,000, and the film and TV charity, we've basically used a lot of our reserves to put in another 440,000. So we're looking at a £2 million fund or thereabouts at the moment. There are also many other conversations going on with broadcasters and studios to add to that. It will be a relief fund for those working in production, distribution, and exhibition. The parameters, the application form, the limit to which one can apply, all of those are being worked out as a matter of urgency at the moment. But if you think it may be something for you, this will all kind of kick off in early April, we hope. But do feel free at the moment to register in the Keep in Touch section, Keep in Touch, of the Film and TV Charity website. So just go to the Film and TV Charity website and it's the Keep in Touch section. And please also bear in mind that, already we have the support line. A lot of people are talking about, oh my goodness, I don't feel I can phone, they must be so inundated, my case isn't bad enough, da, da, da. We have ratcheted up the number of people working on that. We have capacity. Please, if you feel you need to be in contact with us, just pick up that phone line, or you can actually do a live chat as well if you don't kind of want to have to pick up the phone. We can help in various ways, from counseling sessions, just talking through your problems, through legal advice, through financial and debt advice, through to the more complicated cases. You will actually be allocated a case worker. We can give financial support of up to £500 for anybody who has 2 years professional experience in the industry and has a case that needs dealing with urgently. So there is already that in place, as well as then there will be the much bigger pot that we will be kind of working on in early April.
Great. And I know everybody's asking for the links right now. If we do have time to put in TV and film charity.
Yeah, and it's the Keep in Touch section. If you just literally Google Film and TV Charity Keep in Touch, and then you can register, and then you will be given immediate information as soon as that form, the application form, goes live and comes out.
Right. And we will, just a reminder to everyone that's tuned in, we will be collating all the links and everything being discussed here, but So you'll be able to have like a nice one pager. We're going to update the Soho Media Club website, and Neal will repeat that in Feed magazine as well. So, I mean, Sara, as far as like having this be a relief, you must be relieved yourself that there's finally like a window of opportunity for you to actually point people to and help.
Yeah. Help. I mean, it's going to be fantastic to be able to offer some kind of practical help. You know, this shouldn't and must not let the government off the hook in terms of their support for the self-employed and sole traders. But, you know, it's a fantastic thing. And, you know, I'm really, really proud to be involved with it. The work that the guys at the Film and TV Charity have done to get this up and running has just been brilliant. Alex Pumphrey and all her team there, you know, just a huge big up to them, really.
Yeah. And from your point of view, what would be the first thing you would like to see achieved out of this fund for this short-term period?
I would like to, I personally would like to see achieved is that people who are in danger of losing the roof over their heads or not knowing how they are going to pay the bills next week, that, you know, they can get themselves back on an even keel, because I think at the moment we are suffering as an industry, as a set of industries from I think we ourselves work out how we're going to survive in the short term in order that we can then rebuild our industry, which, as you quite rightly said, you know, at the top, I don't think is going to look the same. I think it's going to be a very different industry. I think there may be in the mid and long term some really good things come out of this. I mean, it seems to me as an agent, as well as my work with the Film and TV Charity, that there's this huge fracture point around the freelance community of who owes duty of care.
Right.
And that has been a discussion around bullying and harassment, around working conditions, around many things in what was, until, you know, seemingly 10 nanoseconds ago, an incredibly busy and vibrant industry. And now we are looking at that fracture point of duty of care in the sharp relief of, you know, catastrophe, basically. So I think there are going to be big conversations to be had, but if the relief fund can just steady the people that need steadying financially so they can kind of free their brain space and think about that and have those conversations, that would be a great thing.
That's just, again, it's just fantastic news. And just to reiterate, anyone can apply, but you do have to meet some certain criteria, obviously.
Yeah, anybody can apply. Yeah, and we are setting up the criteria. You know, as I say, the criteria for financial support through the support line, which is capped at £500, is 2 years professional experience. I do not know whether that will be the same criteria. It may be, it may not be. But, you know, there's quite a lot of us working on those parameters intensely at the moment.
Okay, well done again. Congratulations. We're gonna loop back around to you in just a second, especially in your relationship with how you do work with people like BECTU and BFI and everyone else in that. So I wanted to go to you, Nia. If you are unmuted, say hello, please, Nia.
I am. Hi, I'm here. Yeah, yeah.
Nia, what kind of questions are coming to you in a BECTU perspective from like a broader, bigger picture, a sense of things? And can you just kind of touch on what kind of support BECTU can give in this short-term solution and medium-term, and then that kind of advice that you personally give in your role?
Yeah, of course. So so something that I just want to pick up on from where Sara left off, and if we could come back to this, is the urgent need now that we have for a new deal for freelancers. I think that everything that has happened in the last 10 days has highlighted huge amounts of change that needs to happen in the industry, and by a new deal for freelancers, I'll come back to that maybe in a Q&A section later on in terms of what that means. In relation to what we're being asked, I would need to say, first of all, that my specialism within BECTU is looking after the London production division. So I'm specifically talking about people who work in crew, in film and TV. But the major question that I'm being asked, and all of my colleagues are being asked, is what are we going to do? You know, what can I do? How am I going to survive? And, you know, to echo all of the questions that Sara highlighted before, In relation to what BECTU are doing, so just to kind of cut this up a little bit, because we're working across huge amounts of levels, all the way from lobbying the government all the way down to, you know, or across to supporting our members on a daily basis. So I'll start off with what we've done on the ground. So we've worked with productions over the last 10 days to secure extended hiatus periods and to extend notice periods where we can. That's brought quite a lot of positive kind of feedback, and we thank the productions that have seen how that would be positive to our members. We've been working really, really closely with productions in terms of waiting on this government announcement to see if the 80% loans that they've offered to employers can be extended to freelance PAYE crew.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, then our next step, and an urgent one, will be to work with productions to ensure that all of those crew members who were on PAYE are going to be reinstated. That's a really important, you know, step for us. But as I say, we're still waiting on information. Another big thing that we've been doing is encouraging productions to align what they're offering to weekly crew to be extended to daily crew. There's been a lot of issues around dailies who, you know, don't have the same protection as weekly crew. So we've also welcomed those productions who have actually extended the package that they've offered weekly crew. And I think that's made a huge, you know, difference to many of our members. In terms of working with our stakeholders, so BECTU has been on the BFI Industry Task Force and the BEFC Business Advisory Group, as well as the GLA COVID-19 Roundtable. So, you know, basically we've been a part of most things that have been going on in the last 10 days. To 2 weeks, and I think it's been, you know, it's been a huge kind of undertaking for everyone that's been involved, and I think what we're seeing in terms of the initiatives that the, you know, TV and film charity have undertaken is reflective of all the really hard work that's gone into trying to protect members and crew in a very short-term solution. In terms of everyday kind of BECTU business, we continue to advise our members on the, you know, the varied subject matters that we would usually support them on and with. We're taking a lot of calls at the moment in terms of people maybe being let go when there's no need to because of what the government have offered. People are increasingly asking whether they should go to work, what their rights are around going to work, and, you know, all the other industrial and employment business really that we undertake on a day-to-day basis. So we just continue to support our members in that way as well. And just to finish on that, just in terms of lobbying the Treasury, you know, my colleague Tony Lennon, who's going to come in, and also my colleagues from Prospect, I think, are on the line, who have just done absolutely fantastic and around-the-clock work over the past week and a half to really push for the Chancellor to announce a package for freelance. So we're hoping that something could come out of that on Thursday.
Fantastic. Nia, I think I could speak on behalf of the entire industry in the UK. We're so grateful for all the lobbying and all the hard work you guys are doing. And I know we'll see that difference in the universal credit and with things that are happening in your trade unions, and you know, with any luck, the number one thing is everyone stays healthy or gets healthy. If somebody's not well, that's the number one thing. And once this flattens out, to get these productions back up and running, and make sure that we kind of start where we left off, hopefully, so to speak, with some of these productions. So speaking of the universal credit and some of the kind of nitty gritty in the taxes. So Tony, we're going to throw to you now. If you can please indulge us a little bit further into where we are going and the advice for our taxes, because it is a pretty evil word that most of us hate, probably. So what are the ways that you can kind of ease the situation as far as
look, thanks, Muki. This isn't just about tax, all right? I think to deal with the immediate big problem, which is there are tens of thousands of freelancers in our sector who need some financial respite, that we need to talk about the fiscal system and the benefit system. We need to welcome, the generous charitable interventions, but we also need to acknowledge the scale of the problem that thousands of people are facing. Just measured on BFI stats, the high-end film and TV production industry is probably worth about £2.5 billion a year. Add on to that commercials, add on to it the other stuff that broadcasters in both TV and radio are doing, add on the world of corporate events, live entertainment. This is a massive slice of the economy. And no disrespect to Sara, I think it's great what film and TV charity are doing, but look, it's going to make a small impression. It's really welcome, but I think we have to acknowledge that the big state is back. The big state is back. The only actor in our current environment that has the capacity, because they print the money, run the central bank, and run the fiscal system, the only agent that's got the real capacity to solve these immediate problems is actually the state. And we've seen, to my astonishment, I have to say, just today, we've had the announcement of the biggest helicopter money exercise the world has ever seen in the United States. $500 billion, right, is being distributed on an almost flat rate, even-handed basis to the entire US adult population. Now, $500 billion, by the way, is about half the UK's gross domestic product per year. So that's the scale of the problem that we're facing. Where does tax come into it? Well, good news, IR35, I could go on about it forever, I'm not going to. It's gone into the long grass for a bit. We'll return to that another day. Let's forget about it. What we do need to understand is the benefit system. And there have been one or two easements on tax which will be helpful to freelancers. Those that paid their self-assessment tax bill in January at the moment don't look like they're going to get any of it back. But we have been told that the payment on account that most people are used to doing at the end of July is now going to be deferred until January. HMRC aren't really saying much about it, but they won't be coming after you. I've spoken to a lot of accountants in the industry who are saying, do you know, if you've got a standing direct debit that HMRC can access, cancel it now. All right, really practical thing to do, and wait and see if they come after you. But cancel that direct debit to HMRC just in case they do come after you. All right.
Heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I said you heard it here first at Soho Media Club.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious of time, Tony, and I could completely 1000% listen to you all day. And I think it's just kind of tightening that up, and then we want to get into group discussion. So
fine. Look, I'm going to stick on benefits. There's a lot of future stuff I think that we need to talk about, but not now. I think the immediate issue for people who've got no money is to do all the practical stuff that you'll find out there on the internet. You know, BECTU prospectors put stuff out there. Equity is particularly good at benefits advice, so go and look at their website. It's all there. Equity's members, sadly, tend to run a lot on benefits, whereas members of BECTU don't. But the key is most people are going to find that they are either in a situation where they have a PAYE record, where they are covered by the job protection scheme, which is the HMRC operated thing for employers. And the only bodies that can apply to that are employers. So individuals can't do it. But if you've got an employer somewhere in the background who's doing it, then make sure they understand it and they take advantage of it. And then sadly for everybody else, apart from the philanthropic initiatives like Sara outlined earlier, mostly your only out of work line is to go for universal credit and find what components you qualified for. And because the minimum income floor, which was an assumed income of 35 hours a week at the appropriate minimum wage, because that's been relaxed, and they're not now insisting on come for an interview and sign up to conditionality of going for 10 job interviews a week and all that stuff, that then theoretically lots and lots of freelancers who've never really applied for benefits before can now be gatewayed into universal credit. You should do it. You can do it online. You can try ringing your job centre if you can get through, but they are absolutely inundated at the moment. And do it without shame. But don't lose sight of the key campaigning message. We've got to get out there. Freelancers need the same 80% treatment that their employed colleagues are getting. That's really, really important. We've just got to win the political battle on that.
Yeah, here. Thank you so much. It's rich advice, and kind of ties in neatly to turning to you, Tom, from a legal perspective. What are your thoughts to share with the group on navigating some of the terms and contracts? You talked about force majeure. We talked about frustration, which is this new, well, it has more than one meaning, more than one meaning nowadays, but I'm going to pass over to you, Tom. If we unmute. There we go.
Hi, everyone. So we're getting lots and lots of questions from people who are in contracts that in an ordinary time wouldn't, people would do everything they were supposed to do under the contract. It would never be an issue. Very standard form contracts, which means people don't read a lot of the fine print. They don't read the force majeure clause. They don't really consider what would happen if things go wrong. So the three words that are being bandied around, so it's force majeure, it's frustration, and it's a repudiatory breach. That's a fun one. And basically, depending on whether you're the person who needs the services or the person who's meant to get paid for the services, you will use different versions of these at different times. But force majeure is the big one. It basically says if something beyond our control prevents us from doing what we are obligated to do, then we don't have to do it. And the thing about this, and the thing about all of these, is that they are very, very complicated, and they often turn on a single word. So if you are the person who's trying to say, I don't owe you anything because of force majeure, just double check that, because if you get it wrong, then you've breached the contract. Similarly, if you're the person who's obligated to pay for those services, and the question comes up, someone's provided services, can they, do you still have to pay them? And the answer is, if you have the money, then the fact that there is a big pandemic doesn't stop you from paying them the money. So force majeure isn't an automatic out, right? So that's something you should definitely think about. You just say, oh, I saw force majeure, I'm off the hook. You have to be prevented from doing what it was you were meant to do. So that's force majeure. Frustration is when no one can do what they're supposed to do because the fundamental underlying thing just isn't happening. So if I meant to show up and provide services on a location, and that location is not accessible because the government has said you can't leave your house, then I can't provide services, and therefore you don't have to pay me. And so it's more of a mutual sort of thing. It's generally when nobody's at fault. But again, you want to be thinking about that if someone says, hey, you have to pay me, and you say, well, neither of us could do what we wanted to do. And then repudiatory breach is when you just say, you know what, because of X, I'm not going to do what I said I would do. And then that goes back to, are you really prevented from doing it? So, you've provided services. I just say, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here. And it's largely because, you think you had a bad deal, or your expenses have gone up or whatnot. And so if someone just calls you up and says, I'm not honoring that contract, they are breaching. It's called a repudiatory breach. And then you have to see what kind of remedies you might have. All of these are very complicated. I raise them because you could be hearing them from vendors or from clients, but consult your local lawyer. There are plenty of legal aid services around. There's volunteer lawyers for the arts, but you've got to do that. So the going forward advice I was going to give is there's a lot of really great creativity happening right now. People are having virtual writing rooms and brainstorming sessions and that sort of thing. And I would just caution you to get the ground rules set up front, because the last thing you want to do is and this sounds like I'm being Dr. Doom and I really don't want to do it. I really want this to be kind of a good fences and make good neighbors sort of moment. But if you're going to be working in a group, just establish the ground rules up front, right? We're going to do this, and everything we come up with, we're going to own together and put it in writing. So if you're going to send an invitation around like, hey, let's get together and write, and by the way, we all own it, and if people show up, and you've got it in writing. And so it's a little bit of precaution you can take. And if you do it, I mean, you don't have to be a jerk about it. You can just say, hey, let's just put it on the table. We're doing this together. We're all in it together. So
it's called the Coldplay method, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Look, you can't split it 4 ways. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a bit. So, I mean, again, that's super helpful advice. And we're going to write a little kind of guide to what the definitions mean for Soho Media Club on the website, and get these sound bites nailed for Neal. So over to you, Neal, from a journalist perspective and a broadcasting industry perspective, what are you seeing? What have you seen that's happened, and how can you best advise going forward from kind of a broader perspective in the industry?
Thanks. I'll try to keep it short because I want to hear from people and see what kind of people's experience has been and kind of what they're, what's going on with them. But one of the things that obviously as a magazine, we rely on advertisers, and those advertisers are the companies who are producing the gear or trying to sell the equipment that are going to be used to put together productions. So we're kind of using that as like a gauge to sort of see, well, how much activity is there out there? And one of our sister magazines is Definition Magazine, which some of you may be familiar with. It's a high-end cinematography magazine. And that I was talking to the editor, Julian Mitchell, this morning, and he was saying that the vibe he was getting from some of the advertisers was that people are sort of mentally preparing for a big boom when all this is over. So the idea that okay, this is all going to be over someday, this whole thing is going to be over. And when it does, we're going to go, So I think that's the hope. And that's kind of what people are feeling could happen. How that's going to work out, we'll see how it goes. Everybody, I don't know if anybody's seen Mock the Week, and everybody's like really kind of light and funny. And then you finally get to Frankie Boyle. I feel like I'm going to be Frankie Boyle. But we don't. The truth is that we don't actually know how it's going to go. And as Muki said, and I think it's important to realize that it is going to be a very different industry. It's going to be a very different economy. It's going to be a very different world. Even if we pull out of this really quickly, and that's not something to freak out about and to be frightened of. It's just something to notice and see as an opportunity. And as a freelancer or as freelancers, we have to be agile and sort of think one step ahead and see opportunities. And I think there's a huge hell of a lot of opportunity in this. And it is, we are in survival mode to a certain extent. Some people are really thinking, how am I gonna get groceries this week?
Right.
And I think that's important to acknowledge. It's like, this really sucks a lot. I mean, it really sucks. So there's how am I going to get groceries? But I do want to say that things are, don't expect to if only we could just get back to the way things were, everything would be fine. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be a forward movement. So it's going to be forward movement into something new, and just be ready for that. And it's a chance to think creatively, to try new stuff.
Yeah. And Tom, did you want to jump in on that real quick before we kind of open it up?
Yeah, I'd meant to mention, I'm sorry, that the other thing we get lots of questions about is insurance, especially from producers who have had to wrap early or not start and are looking to get access to their insurance policies. And the two things that we're telling people, or maybe three things, but the first one is, in certain circumstances, postpone your shoot versus canceling it. If you didn't have any sort of exception for pandemics, which is a good thing, right? And you postpone it, then you've still got the original policy. If you cancel and redo it, all the insurance policies now have a pandemic exclusion. So you got to be really careful about that. And then the other thing is, if you have a claim, you have to bring it immediately. Every single policy says you must notify us promptly. And when times are good, people let promptly mean lots of different things. But Now it's like, it's immediate or it's not. So please give notice as quickly as you can.
Tony, did you have one more thing to jump in? And I think let's start to take some punter questions, because I realize we're at time now, but I think if everyone's cool to stay on for like another 10 minutes or so and answer some specific questions.
Just following on from Tom, because I've been talking to lots of insurers and lawyers this week. Just two thoughts to hang on to. Tom, you're absolutely right to point out the contractual nuances and cases that people might be able to run in court. Well, I think we need to remember, actually, a lot of people who work in this industry don't even see a contract till they've been on a job for days or weeks. And they don't really have the resource to go off individually and pursue it through the civil court. So there's a bit of a, just be aware of that. Second point on insurance, I was surprised to discover actually standard production insurance and all sorts of other policies ever since the SARS outbreak have had an exclusion for communicable diseases, and very few people have bought the top up on top of that, which would put communicable diseases back in the scope of their insurance policy. So I think a lot of folk who think they might be insured are going to find that it doesn't cover.
And to the insurer's chagrin, some of them say that there is there's an influenza exclusion, but not a corona exclusion. So, or vice versa. So, but yeah, totally agree with you, Tony.
I think Sara, just to loop back to you, because obviously you went first and it seems like ages ago. Is there anything that's been said on our panel discussion just now that ties in with your first thoughts?
No, I mean, I completely agree with everything everybody said. I certainly agree with Tony. As I think I said, it's really important that we can do this work in the very short term and that we can hopefully solve some problems, but that should not and must not let government off the hook for helping us as well. I also agree that there is some exciting stuff that will come out of this, on a small and anecdotal level. Today, wearing my daytime job hat as an agent, I have had a couple of inquiries about editors to work from home and line producers to do some scheduling. It's amazing. Human beings are endlessly resourceful and adaptable. And we will find ways of kind of creating content possibly in a different way before we can all gather in great groups again. So I think we need to get over this bit to then have the bigger conversations. It very much seems to be a two-stage thing as far as I can see.
I think we're all nodding our head in agreement. Any final thoughts before we close this up and produce some helpful documents with the right information on it?
I was going to just sort of throw one last kind of couple things in that I've been thinking about, is that just getting those networks going. So this is a real opportunity to connect with people. And I would say don't try to solve this problem on your own, because you'll just go crackers. And recognize that there are certain elements that you're not going to be able to solve. There's some things you're going to be able to do, and some things you're just going to have to let lie just for now. And connect with people. Don't sit at home, going, how am I going to solve this thing? Sort of reach out and form networks. So, be deliberate about it. Say, let's get on a Zoom chat at this time and we'll start exchanging numbers with people. Use this as an opportunity rather than sitting around and worrying, to actually build those networks. And you probably have some stuff, no matter how miserable your situation may seem right now, you almost certainly have something going on with you that's going to be really useful to somebody else. So kind of bear that in mind, that while you may not be able to solve your problem right now, you probably can help somebody else out. If we can get those networks going, it's going to be, I think we're going to go up and up.
Yeah, and those are really, really great to bring up as well, because we are also supportive of all the other webinars and podcasts that have been going on the last week or so on how we can help each other as an industry, cross-platform, media, television, immersive production, digital production, anything that's involving the crews that need to make things happen. We're I think one way of kind of when you are getting down, looking after your own mental health, besides like those apps of Calm and the other links that we've been talking about today, and even within BECTU and some of the advice that you can give. What also helps as an individual is sometimes helping other people. Because
if I can just say, if you are feeling stressed and alone and you just need somebody to talk to, be that financial, be that just for a conversation, please call. It's 0800 054 0000, 0800 054 0000. Just pick the phone up.
Exactly.
Muki, can I just say one final thing before we're probably kicked off by the hackers?
Yeah.
I think in agreement with Neal and Sara on this, in terms of, you know, kind of resilience and the fact that, you know, in the short term, you know, we live in a really digitalized world. Like BECTU are moving all of their meetings and events and training online. And I know that many other organizations are doing the same. In terms of help that you need from us as well, if you are a member and you're really struggling financially at the moment, you just need to call our membership department and discuss your subs with them, because they can bring those down for you. But I think, you know, and moving on, we're going to be working with industry stakeholders in terms of kind of developing online content and so forth. But I think that my main concern is that we're going to kind of get over this, and then everyone will just be so happy that the industry's back up and running and stuff. But I think, you know, what this has highlighted is that we desperately need a new deal for freelance workers, because this, you know, what's been highlighted is that actually every single person, and that's thousands, 150,000 crew members, are actually precarious workers, and we can't allow that to carry on.
Thank you, Nia. That's really super important that got in there, and we made some notes of it. There were some questions coming in. A final year student is hoping to join the industry in the summer. So a newbie that's not even in our industry yet is still wanting to be a part of what's happening there. The question is, will there be vacancies since the industry is changing, and trained people will likely be will trained people likely be the priorities? Who would like to grab that one? Maybe Sara as an agent?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of quite impossible to tell at the moment. We're all working on the grounds that the industry will hopefully be waking up and getting back in its mojo by sort of August, to be shooting, you know, certainly in my part of the world, which is scripted, by September. And I think at that stage there will be a lot of opportunities at all levels, because it will all come at once. There's a load of shows, you know, these broadcasters, these platforms, they are being robbed of content through this. So they need, you know, so many big BBC shows have been cancelled, Peaky Blinders, The Apprentice, you know, just to name a couple. So I think there will be many opportunities, but I think as a cautionary note, whoever, you know, this person entering the industry is, kind of has seen how quickly we can all fall off a cliff. And I absolutely echo what Nia says. We have to have that conversation about how we change those parameters of how we employ people in this industry.
We're going to go to Tom and then Tony to chip in.
Yeah, which Tom? So me? So one of the things I know, because I'm the governor of a media-focused academy, is that the media industry is one of the very sharp focuses of the apprenticeship schemes that are going on, and there are tons of apprenticeships that the government is funding to the tune of 80 or 90%. So that might be a good way in if there aren't, you know, other avenues. But I can tell you that many of those apprenticeships are not being taken up because people just don't know about them. But it can be a great way to get into industry.
Perfect. And Tony?
2 points. I've in my past had experience of mini industry shutdowns, mostly through strikes. I've been warning people, not everybody comes back because they find other things to do. Some of them decide, that's it, I'm old enough to retire. I think we need to be mindful of the quite old demographic at the high skill end of our sector, which Sara will know all about. And depending how long it lasts and the nature of the recovery, we may see people not coming back. So I think that's a bit of a problem. That's good news for young people. But second point, we really need to ask questions about this industry in the future, because it has been entirely contingent, but they're reliant on a contingent workforce who've carried most of the risk and they're now paying the price for the risk that was handed over to them. And I think we've got to find ways of passing that risk back.
Mm.
Yeah. Another thing for.
Go ahead, Nia.
Oh, sorry. Another thing for, you know, kind of wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, very kind of, you know, encouraged crew as well, is that, you know, if there is a rush in work, you know, you may be asked to do things and undertake tasks and undertake roles that you're not actually prepared for or ready for. And it's always okay to, you know, kind of accept that and speak to whoever's engaging you if you have any concerns about, you know, not actually being able to completely fulfill those duties.
We've got a couple text questions for you, Tony, if we don't mind dipping into that. One was in the event of a support package for freelancers from the Treasury, how will that be calculated? And if it's based on a previous tax return, or can one file a 2019-2020 for the calculation? Thank you, caller, line one. That's a very good question.
Look, the answer to that question is we don't know, because we have no idea how if there is to be a support package introduced by the Treasury and government, we don't know what it's going to look like. But they've got a couple of public policy things I know they're struggling with at the moment. Firstly, what is your income? Secondly, are you genuinely unable to work or just having a state-funded holiday? And these are questions they ask. Thirdly, how do we know that your potential income has completely been destroyed for a period of time? So these are the kind of public policy issues I know they're grappling with. What we've said as a union is that it should be really simple. All that we want to do is have a system for freelancers where if they have verifiable income on an historic basis, however that's proven, then that should be the starting point for working out how they need to be supported now. And I know people are talking about 3-year periods, and they're talking about going back to your last self-assessment, or in the case of people working through personal service companies where it's actually quite difficult, you often won't have a national insurance and PAYE record to refer to. But we're just talking verifiable income. Let's come up with a system where you can show that you used to work here. You can demonstrate you're not working at the moment because of the collapse. You're not having a state-funded holiday, and you deserve the same treatment as your employed colleagues.
Neal.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I wanted to ask Tony and Sara, and maybe just anybody, have you seen any examples, maybe even other countries or other industries where they're doing something different to this, or where they're doing something well, or where we can kind of get some lessons or ideas from?
Yeah, if I may, I mean, look, the Scandis are doing really well. The Scandis have stepped in and said, look, if you satisfy us that you are a genuine self-employed, self-supporting freelancer and you've got no work, right, here's 80% of what you used to earn. And I'm not saying it's no questions asked, but they've been much more willing to intervene. The other international comparison, the one I'm still reeling at, all right, is a Republican right-wing Trump government saying to people, here's helicopter money. That's what we need to solve this immediate problem. It's astonishing, but that's another potential solution. We seem to have got stuck a bit at the Treasury on this question of we can't be seen to give money away to people who don't deserve it. Well, actually, we're talking about people in need here, genuine need, people who ought to have been running businesses where they had a resilient fund of working capital, but in an industry where it's just not possible to build that up, and they need it now.
Yeah, and it is about that short-term help that could let people start to think forward. And no matter how long you've been in the industry, or even if you've not been in the industry yet and you're just getting into it, if you're a student interning to someone that's been in the industry 30, 40, 50 years, there is that little cushion that needs to happen to make people feel appreciated and know that the clouds will be moving away. And there's lots of great advice that's been given today. And I think we've got to We're going to do one more question, but I think if there's anything.
Actually, can I ask a question? Sorry, Muki.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Tony, what about people who've worked in the industry here for years but aren't citizens? You know, I keep hearing about people, you know, citizens will be paid, you know, or will be part of these schemes. But what about, you know, people who are settled but not citizens? Will they also be beneficiaries of these policies?
Slightly making it up, but I think the answer to your question, Tom, is if you are in the workforce and you have a national insurance number, and depending what criteria get applied to any rescue scheme, you know, have you got relevant national insurance payments? Did you pay tax last year? Can you demonstrate that you're operating in a business? Whatever they are, you know, if you are resident and working in the UK economy, I'm expecting, as we're seeing with employees, all right, there's no citizenship requirement for the job retention scheme. You just need to have been visible on somebody's PAYE system in February. I would hope we see a replica of that, and there won't be too much differentiation about, you know, where people come from, what passports they carry, etc., etc. If they're in the workforce, they deserve. That answers it.
We do have one more question from a puncher, Julian, who's asked them, how can a freelancer working as a first AC whose jobs include work on projects such as commercials, short films, and music videos, where there is no contracts? What is the advice for that? Maybe that's over to you, Tom. Or,
well, why wouldn't they be working on contracts, under contracts?
I think that's a good question. Back to, sometimes they're one-day jobs. Sometimes I guess they're brought in and people take the work.
Well, hang on, Tom, we don't need to get into Latin for this, but the fundamental principle of contract law in this country is that if you are providing a service, whether it's direct labour or a business service, in return for a consideration, even if it's only been agreed on the phone or via an email, then there's a contract in position. Okay, it doesn't have to be 12 pages long and signed in blood, but a contract is in position. The real difficulty, and I think Tom will agree with me, is in the day-to-day reality of our industry, if you've just got a verbal contract, or there's an email, or a text that said, come in tomorrow at 7 o'clock tomorrow to Shepperton, it's really hard to pursue those things in a civil court to try and retrieve the damages you deserve because the contract wasn't honoured. Over to Tom.
Yeah, all I would say about that is that, you know, for sure, people are now picking up all of the law about electronic contracting, because you're right, you don't need a piece of paper with a wet ink signature and a seal and all those things anymore. So what you need is an electronic indication of the intention to be bound. That's the status, or that's the standard. So if someone calls and says, you know, can you do this for me? Just say, yeah, drop me an email so I have all the details. And then you reply back and say, great, I'll take it. And that's it. You have a contract.
So
right?
an email in written form of detailing what that job is considered the contract. So I suppose that was the advice for people that jump in on jobs at last minute. Make sure you have everything in writing. Make sure it's the terms and the deliverables are stated. Is that coming into film for 15 minutes, or are you on a 3-day shoot? You
Right.
agree to be paid this much, etc. Then you've got that as a backup.
And actually, can I just ask Tom?
Yes.
Can I just ask Tom, because I'm interested, what we advise our clients to do,
right,
or we do for them with the more senior clients, is actually to put those, to outline those terms and send it and ask for that to be agreed to.
Yes,
So
either will work.
is it okay that you can actually do the, you know, and I have my template of all the bullet points that I want to cover, you know, the terms under which those clients work, we send that off to the production, whether it's a 1-day shoot or a 1-year shoot. Does that, as long as they respond in the affirmative, I've been led to believe that that counts as well.
It does. It does. So if they respond in the affirmative, then that's great. If they don't respond in the affirmative, but you turn up and you work and you get, you know, hopefully you get paid, right? Then it's very difficult for them to say there wasn't a contract. In fact, they've ratified it by their actions, by their custom and practice.
By their allowing you to turn up. Yeah.
Right. It's not as good if someone really wanted to be a sharky lawyer. They try to get you out of that. But you know, you're right.
If I may, just
a second? Sorry. Just what people need to be mindful of, though, is working through agencies. So I've had this over the last couple of weeks where I've had a couple of members who have said, I've got this job for Burberry, for example, and I was meant to be doing it for a month, and I've been, they've sent everyone home today, and they're gonna get, they're offering to pay me a day. So, and when, what we need to be mindful here is that when you go up against an agency, what you're potentially doing is, rocking the boat, and what you have is the underlying fear that if you shout too loud, that you're going to not be given any work in the future. So what we've come across this week is actually an agency saying, well, you can't go after Burberry, you would have to come after me personally. And if you want to be paid, then that's going to have to come from my own paycheck. Now, I'm not saying that any of that is correct, but what I'm saying is that's an example of what certain people face during an already incredibly stressful time.
And we know that, we've got some of our audience, Edis and Julian, these guys, sometimes 1 to 2 day projects are not, the contracts don't appear, and you don't want to be pushing it too much. But I think we're just, the rule of thumb is get things in writing, and we're going to have some final last words from you guys as we close out this session. And we're so grateful again to Feed Magazine. Please sign up to Feed Magazine and get the digital versions. It's a fantastic read and great insights in the industry. Please sign up to sohomedia.com. There's lots of these that are going to be happening. We're going to be publish everything on both of these websites and making this a nice podcast. And we want to close things out and of course join BECTU and everything, and tap into the TV and film industries, the grants, the universal credit. So we're going to just wrap things up with one final closing word before we sign off. And Tony, you had your hand up first. So last closing statements, please, for the magical soundbite.
Two really quick ones. Get it in writing. Could be an email, but get it in writing. Change in employment law on April the 6th. People who are classified as being workers, which is anyone in our sector who gets holiday pay, have a legal entitlement on day 1 of their engagement to have a statement of particulars. And that is quite prescriptive, and that will give you a really good basis if you actually get provided with the statement to be able to say, look, you can't deny that I was promised X days work, X hours a day at a certain rate of pay.
And Tom, you're next to him on the video grid, so I'm going to go to you.
This is not necessarily a legal point, but when times are like this, people show their true colors. And so people who are not acting like that agent that was just described, but who are going out of their way to do the right thing, right? We're all sacrificing in one way or another. But if you approach this with a generosity of spirit and with the idea, well, what's the right thing to do here? You will not regret it. It's the right thing to do. This is when people's real character comes out. And I'd like to think most people are going to take the high ground, but if there's any choice, just do it. Right. End of lecture. Sorry, American earnestness.
But,
yeah.
Nia, for closing thoughts from you, please.
I would say never sign anything that doesn't have a cancellation fee in there. I would also say that, the industry is yours. You're the people who make it run. You're the makers, you're the creators, you're the crew. So, you must never underestimate how strong you are in a collective term. And moving forward, I think we'll probably see a lot more collectivity, and hopefully that will, provide us with a healthier and more stable industry for everyone.
And fantastic. And Sara, over to you, please.
I think I would just say build communities, get involved in online communities, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be ashamed. Everybody is feeling vulnerable at the moment. Everybody needs help and support. It is out there, go and access it. And again, on a more positive note, there's a load of really interesting free stuff, not to do with film and TV, but in terms of online courses. There are thousands of amazing free online courses out there. Do that thing that you've always said you haven't got time to do. Do that art history course, do that macrame course, whatever it is. Use the time. You are a worker in this industry, but you're also a human being with many, many other qualities and ideas and skills. Kind of exercise some of those as well.
Yeah, but LinkedIn is showing tons of in open universities, and Time Out Magazine is showcasing, like, most of these courses are now free, or like £5. They're not 105 pounds. So just echoing what Tom said, you know, there's a lot of people actually showing their true colors, and that we're humans with a lot of goodwill, and we're all holding each other up right now. Closing words from you, Neal Romanek, editor of Feed Magazine.
I would say, remember that, you know, we talk about the industry, but remember that you are the industry, actually. That's actually, when we talk about the industry, that's you guys. So, you know, keep that in mind, you know, that you are the ones that are actually going to be creating what this industry looks like for the next 6 months, 10 years, whatever it is. So don't feel like an outsider, you know, get creative. And as people said, you know, there's a lot of tools out there. There's also a lot of free software available, and a lot of which you probably already have, but, you know, start messing around with it, start creating stuff, and, you know, spend an hour a day worrying about your situation. And then the rest of the day, you know, do something else.
And only get your updates from the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
Not turn to Twitter. And I'm going to close things out on behalf of Soho Media Club. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you to our panel. Thank you. Thank you, Sara, Nia, Tony, Tom, and Neal Romanek.
Thanks, Muki.
Magazine. The takeaway on this side in the true veins of Soho Media Club is we do really super endorse those words of diversity, inclusion, equality, helping each other, and collaboration. And this is a time of collaboration more than ever before. We are here to represent the industry and be the industry and hold each other up and help each other out. And remember, if you pass over an egg to your neighbor, just disinfect it first, right? Okay. So Feed Magazine, sign up, BECTU, sign up, all the TV and film charities, sign up, and Soho Media Club. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to be doing this once a month. So look out for the updates and all the advice here. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Rule number 5, Soho Media Club. Keep on partying. Jessica, any last words from you, please, my dear?
Just keep supporting each other and keep smiling. Don't underestimate the power of a smile.
There we go. And ice cream.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye. Bye. Bye.